Awesome. Welcome, Ben, to the Ops Experts Club. It's so good to be back. Missed a couple of weeks. Aaron's here as well. I just had to go see if Aaron was lying about Belize or not. Turns out he was telling the truth, and it is pretty cool. So I believe him about it. Welcome, Aaron. Ops Experts Club.
Yeah, Ops Experts Club. Taryn and I did not lie about Belize, and it is just as amazing as I ever said. And how rad was it that we got to have dinner together in Belize? I mean, of all those things.
I know. Yeah, we got a couple of meals together, shared some coffees together, rubbed some shoulders.
Yes. I just want you to know, Ben, I've been courting you for January, brother. So just so you know, I'm always trying to court people into it. So those of you who know coffee and want to do Belize, definitely have a conversation with me.
Yeah. So cool. And I called Aaron this yesterday. I don't think he realized it, but he's not an international businessman. So
Yes. Feels, I mean, when you said that, like, and obviously those things are true, but like it's hit me a little bit different, like I think that is pretty awesome. And I do think yeah, just some cool stuff that are going on in tandem with other things that we're doing here in the States and other people that are doing things here in the States. And it's things obviously that don't pertain so much to Ops Experts Club here, but ways that we've like created proprietary ingredients, things for Coffee de los Mayas down there and also other clients up here, and just things that the collab team is working on. It's just cool to see like this, really synergistic like energy put towards something where it's not just like, hey, we went to go start this one weird silo. It's out in Belize, out in the middle of nowhere, and has no connection to anything else we do. Like that kind of business doesn't interest me as much, but I think it's really cool. And it's like, no, this De Los Mayas is very intimately intertwined with everything that we're doing with Coffee Experts Club, everything we're doing with Indie Coffee Coalition, which is another business that we've got on the side, and then collab team with managing different pieces of that. I think there's some really cool stuff in it. So
yeah.
Would you call yourself a mogul at this point?
Oh man, I do not want that title probably ever. I think at this point I'm just a dude doing stuff. Ben Clatterbuck.
International business mogul.
Oh man. I will say though, it is cool being down there. I think I've thought a lot about Belize since being home. And obviously I left Drew just stuck down there. I'm like, hey Drew, we just worked 17-hour days back to back for the last 3, and you're opening and closing every day this week. God bless you, brother. I think that my heart goes out to Drew. I think about him a lot. He and I are blowing up WhatsApp chat every morning because he's 2 hours earlier than us, so they're on Central Time. So he and I've been having some good De Los Mayas conversations, but it's just cool to see. I think that obviously all the things we do with operations is all, we not only help with the lift, but we help with the education. That's what Ops Experts Club is about. That's what Coffee Experts Club is about. A lot of even our client work that we do with L10 meetings, all of us just came off of different client L10 meetings coming into this meeting. A lot of that is around how can we help empower people to lift their brand, lift their company, lift whatever it is they're in the middle of doing. And it was so cool to be in Belize and see these young kids. Most, you guys know coffee. Most of the kids you're hiring are, 16, 17, 18 years old, 19, 20, even all the managers in our roasters days, that so it was something that always blew us away. Was we're talking about people that are like 19, 20, 21 running whole stores, and like what other business model has that as a business model? Probably not too many, but it was so cool down there meeting with these kids and being able to take things that Taryn started with you, with a lot of the structure you put into place, passed on to Ben. Ben grew within, his skill set in roasters back in the day. That's where both of you guys origined. Taryn, you were young when you were there and we're managing these 5 locations regionally, and then stepped out and handed it to Ben, and Ben and I helped grow it to another, 10 more than that, 15 plus the roastery, and managing all those systems. But then it's so cool for these systems that origined in Taryn, origined in Ben, origined in Aaron, and then to go and pass down to these young kids in Belize that have no coffee experience, have no business experience, but then to teach them systems that are hopefully going to grow them as people to be amazing additions to not only our business down there, but also business in general, like how they're growing as business people and being an asset to other businesses. I think that's the best part. That's what fills me up the most. It's not making money. It's not even like banger grand openings, which that was crazy. All cash grand openings still matched up with, grand openings we did here in the States, which was just bonkers. But also like investing into people, investing into kids, investing into San Ignacio as a place. Like we lit up Burns Avenue that whole weekend, which hopefully benefited other businesses around there. And just that we would have that like opportunity where like rising tide lifts all ships, of
Right.
as we all grow, we're all getting better. There are things that Drew, for all the grand openings Drew's done, Drew's done so many freaking grand openings, so many places now. Like he was up against things this week that he's never been up against before. And so Drew grew, you know what I mean? And then as Drew grew, like these kids underneath Drew grew, you know what I mean? And I grew as somebody that's looking at business from the bigger picture. And so I think all those things are so cool, every new venture that we do. So
Yeah. The question is there talks yet of a location number 2?
So there are always talks of location number 2. Man. Yes. I think that for sure, location 2 and 3 actually have both been discussed. I think that, but even challenging that model in that, how it is, like you come into something, and we see it all the time, even with annual planning or quarterly planning, like you start a certain way, and then you get halfway in the rungs of it all as you're climbing the ladder, and you're like, is this the best way, or should this morph a little bit? And so I think that's some of the conversations now is, we had these different locations kind of in mind from the start, from conception, but now challenging it with, could this actually work a little bit different if we plugged and played it this way? And I think that's one of the most exciting things about what we do with the collab team for me is we're in the middle of all these businesses, and it's always morphing, and it's not just like same thing every day. I'm making widgets. I'm punching out the same widget every single day that I come, it's always new. It's always growing. It has a life of its own. So
Always. Yeah. Awesome. Well, glad to be back, everybody. Let's give the people what they want. Let's talk more operations awesomeness.
yeah.
Last week we had on a wonderful operations expert here to discuss with us, Jamie from Team Pedro Deo, 828
That's
Media,
right.
Crush It with Challenges, a few different monikers there for them. We've got the privilege of working with Jamie for a few years now, and we brought her on because we've gotten to see how excellent she is at what she does. And Ben, I know I wasn't there, but you had quite a wonderful conversation with her, didn't you?
Yeah, it was a blast talking to her. I didn't know that she came from the corporate HR background. I was like, holy cow, how did you make that transition? Like, and that's a lot of what we talked about was like her just learning how to go from this corporate world where everybody did the the widget punching, that's all you did, and it was very structured, to just like get flung straight into the like exact opposite of that, where it's like everybody's running nonstop, and if you can do it, you do it. If I can do it, I'll do it, but it's got to get done, so somebody's better got to do it. And it was a cool talk to her about how she kind of transformed the way that she looked at business and operations from that slow. I think she talked about, when they plan projects, it's like usually a year in advance to like planning a project for 2 weeks from now.
Yeah.
HR work too. So even more like by the book, make sure you're crossing everything, make sure there's nothing being swept under the table. Like you got to make sure everything's in a row.
Yep. Yeah.
I actually hired her. So I hired Jamie. So Scott came to me and he said, hey, so I've got this lady. I think she's going to be really good. Would you mind doing the interviewing process? And if you feel like she's a good fit, will you hire her? And so I met with Jamie, and I just knew right out of the gates, I mean, what a likable lady. It's what a smart lady. Just such a high quality human being. We do so much recruiting for clients, not every interview goes like that, right? Sometimes you get in the middle of it and you're like, oh no, man, this one's not going to work. But Jamie was like, spent time with her. She came out of banking, right? Like, so banking HR, like talk about, you couldn't get more opposite to Pedro Day organization than banking HR, right? Like we're talking about very formalized systems, day over day, very, very similar. I came out of credit union. So I worked really closely with the HR department because our director was over my whole side of things and HR. So I felt like I was very intimate with HR within banking. So when I met with Jamie, I'm like, okay, sister. So let's have some conversations about some of the things you're going to expect, right? Because it was early Pedro Adeo era. So all the craziness, like Pedro had brought us on. He had 3 people at the time when they first started, and he was slow growing it. But Collab team threw 8 players onto the field because it was so much chaos at the beginning because they were growing so fast, So Jamie was one of those initial like pickup from the team. And so just having that conversation of, we were in some pretty high volume chaos, and just, hey, so just so you know, whatever you've known over here, we're talking about diabolically different of what you're going to walk into, so that she has adapted so well and become just the powerhouse she is. And Pedro Deo's organization is so much testimony of taking all the order and then bringing some order to chaos. I think that could be her formalized stamped job description, is like order from chaos, because she's done such a good job with it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, she talked to a lot of, something that I don't really think about is the transition for her was going from the project, plan out a project for a year to then, what she called MVP, which I've never heard, that thrown about. And I was like, MVP, what? But minimal viable products, basically. In the corporate world, you're spending a year to, plan out a rollout of a new product, where she goes to Pedro Dale and it's like, okay, it doesn't need to be perfect. Does it work? It's what we need. It just needs to work. A minimal viable product to be able to push out, and we can clean as we go. Like, those are two wildly different ways of working, especially for like an operations brain. We'll talk about that, like her experience of having to shift her brain from like that I want to plan out everything perfectly. I want to plan for every contingency. I want to plan for how this could go wrong in A way, B way, C way, D way, instead of just like having to transition to no, we've got a product that works, push it out, and we clean as we go.
I think it's so tricky. Like with Pedro is such, like, he's just an idea guy, man. And he is just, they just come and they 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 come, like, and everything is building so fast that, I mean, so many of the planes are being built while they're in the air. You know what I mean? And so I think that coming to that minimal viable product of, can this thing fly? Like, that's just the bottom. Like, can we get this thing up off the ground? Because we know there are going to be other things we're going to have to build out once it's in the air. And I think there are a lot of people, as you're listening today, as you're watching today, on YouTube, on Facebook, as you're watching this in the membership area, if you're already part of Ops Experts Club later, you probably are all pretty similarly in a situation where you're an operations person running hard behind a visionary that has lots of vision. And the thing that always was so surprising for me about Pedro is, it didn't matter how many team members we would add. It's still, like, I always thought, how many people does it take to manage Pedro Adeo? Because he's got so much energy and so many different ideas. But I think that once you start organizing, like, where you place things, like this channel, oh, that right there, that goes in this channel. Oh, that right there, that goes in this channel. Oh, that goes right there, that goes in this channel. Then I feel like you can begin to morph things. But it's when it's like unbridled chaos, when it's just like things are just whipping around and you don't have any system of where you put it. I think that's what makes minimal viable product the hardest. Is, okay, so what are we even talking about right now? And then how does it line up against other products that we have out there live in the market right now, and other people that have purchased those products? So I think Jamie has done a great job of getting to that spot of helping Scott determine, what does minimal viable product even mean in light of your whole product suite? That's a tricky one.
Yeah. And I think brought up a good point. Like in the e-commerce world, especially the info space, not a lot of people realize, like, people can have an idea one day and they're selling it the next day. Like, it can be that quick. Imagine starting your coffee shop in one day, Aaron. I mean, that's a physical thing. It takes months. Imagine building a physical product. Like, that takes months, years to develop. But in this sort of space where we have a lot of clients in, they have ideas and the next day they're selling it already. Things work pretty fast. And so, especially if the customers want it then, they're used to getting it then. And so they might not want it in 3 weeks or 4 weeks. Like, it's now or it's never. So that MVP is really important to focus on. And sometimes we do think too much about the what ifs. And she did bring up good points. Like, that is what we're here for. It's like, they have the ideas, we have the what ifs. We just need to roll with it.
I think too, like, how you deliver it, right? Like, the what ifs, like, the visionary doesn't like the what ifs. The visionary wants you to say, that's the best thing I ever heard, right? Like, because that's what fuels them up, and every visionary's new idea is their best idea. Mm-hmm. Every new idea is the one that's going to bring them the most success. That's the way they're wired. They're quick starts, whereas we as operation people, usually on the Colby scores, we're not scoring high on quick starts. We're the ones that's like follow through, and making sure we have a plan and all those different pieces that go with our end of it. And that's why we balance out so well on the Colbys with the visionaries, because we complement where they're high, we're low, and that's what makes it a perfect meshing. But I do think that there is some of that communication factor of, how do I bring back to him the what ifs without pissing him off or without pissing her off? Because all she wants to hear is, yes, push, go. Did you build it out? Is the landing page ready? Is it all wired up on the back end that they're going to get all the right messaging? Are they going to be able to purchase? Will they get the access? All the different things that you deal with. And we're like, whoa. Yeah, it's not an issue of if we can get that done, of course, and Taryn does this so good. I feel like he always just frames it so well because Taryn doesn't get riled up the same way I do. Like I'll get in the mix of things and I get all frenetic and like, oh my gosh, how are we going to manage it? And Taryn's like, deep breath, take a step back. Like, is this what we're supposed to be doing next? Yes, we can do that. What's the pain points that are going to be friction points? And then being able to communicate that back to visionary of, hey, we'll do whatever you want to do, but we have some concerns because of X, Y, and Z. How would you like to see us handle those? And then usually those are X, Y, and Z that visionary hasn't thought of yet. And so then he or she has the decision making of, are they going to get frustrated with that friction point that could cause them to slow down their timeline of how fast they want it delivered? Or are they just like, I don't care, roll it out? And then we just have to realize there's going to be some pain in the customer journey, and letting customer experience team know, hey, so from an operations perspective, this is what we see visible on the horizon. How are you going to handle that? And helping them work through whatever the visionary decides to do. Because in the end, largely it's their name, right? Pedro Adeo's name is going to go out in front. So if there's a bad customer journey, it's our job for us to say, hey, we're concerned about this. They make the decisions over there, and then we just help roll it out with team. And Pedro's we're picking on Pedro a lot because Jamie was who we're talking about. Pedro's definitely not the only one that does this kind of stuff. Every single client we work with as a visionary, there's a pain point like this where they want to race it, get it out. And we need to take the deep breath of minimal viable product, absolutely, and implication pain points that we need to be thinking through.
Yep.
Right. Yeah. And we're not even picking on Pedro. It's, that's how he operates, and he's excellent as a business entirely. It's more just about like, how do we work well with that as the visionary? And you're right. It's the same across the board. And it is our job as operations people to kind of just work with it and figure it out and find the way to get it done. Which also leads to the next point Jane brought up is like, okay, how do you get it done, but within your boundaries? We're work from home people. I can say yes to that, but it might take me till 10 p.m. and that means I've worked 12 hours today. So how do you say yes to it within a boundary and also explain that to somebody that's asking for it?
Yeah. I mean, we talked a lot about it. It's harder, I think, for the stay at home or the work from home crew, because it's so easy for like my office to bleed into the kitchen, to bleed into the living room, to bleed into the bedroom. It's not like where I'm at an office where like it's 5 o'clock, I'm home in a completely different building working from home. I'm like, oh, I've got my laptop, I'll just take it out, and while we're watching a movie tonight, I'll just do some emails. But like, there's a real blur of those boundaries when you work from home, and you have to set like, no, this is my time I work, and this is my time that I don't work. Because if I don't set that, us operations minded people, as we always do, we're like, yeah, I can do that. Yeah, I can do that. Yeah, I can do that. It's 9 o'clock. I can shoot emails. It's fine. I can do that. And before you know it, I can do that has turned into that 12-hour day of just like task on task on task on task.
And I think obviously any of us that are good at what we're doing, like we can do a lot of it from these guys, right? Like we can do a lot of it from like phones, what I mean? And this is the biggest danger, right? Is like, we think that this is such a gift, and it is such a gift, but the trick is I can be sitting next to my wife on the couch watching a movie and doing this too, right? Out of the corner of my eye, like falling, just like thumbing through, like whatever it is. And then is that fair to her? Because it's robbing her of time that really should be time that I'm dedicated to her. And obviously every relationship is different. Everyone has to work through their own boundaries and what that looks like. But I will say it's very, very easy to minimize impact that's having. And it's like, all the little things are what it takes that adds up to bigger problems downstream, And so I think us needing to have those boundaries so that we remember what is most important. Because obviously we all know this is just today's fire. Tomorrow there's going to be another fire, and the next day after that there's going to be another fire. It's not like this is the only time we're going to deal with this. And so if it's day after day after day firefighting, those things add up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I did resist the iPhone for as long as possible when I was at the coffee shop, because I knew I didn't want extra responsibility. I saw what was coming. I saw the iPhone. I was like, this thing's got internet. Look at all this stuff. And the owner kept being like, come on, we need more from you. And eventually he bought me a phone and paid for the plan, and I had no choice.
I remember that.
Good old Wes Hayden days, man. Wes knew what he was doing. He's no dummy.
Let me gift you with this responsibility.
That was fun.
No, it's so true though. And I think, I think Jamie personalized it really well. Like just from again, coming from that corporate world where the boundaries were pretty rigid because it's a pretty rigid job. I think she's done a great job of moving into this chaotic entrepreneurial world. I mean, even she said, it was difficult at first setting those boundaries because you just want to do everything because there's just so much to do. It's hard to say like, no, this has to wait till tomorrow. Like, I know it's emergency now, but like Terrence says, if everything's important, nothing's important, right? Like if everything's
Right.
nothing's a fire. So you could stay up all night doing firefighting at home when in reality you just have to say, this has to wait till tomorrow. I think Jamie's done a really good job with that. I mean, it seems like she brings a lot of balance to that organization.
Mother of 3 young girls, you have to, right? Otherwise, like those are her most important like assets, right? Those are the most important things she's got. And it's so easy to, like, as a responsible human being, which she is, which we all are. That's why we've gotten to the roles that we're in. Think that responsibility is important, but it's not as important as these 3 little angels that are all looking to you. And if mom's always distracted, then like that's not healthy for them. It's not good for them. So Jamie's done a really, really good job. I'm really proud of how she's integrated from the banking HR world into something so radically different and just done so well with it. It's huge kudos to her.
Mhm. I will give one quick tip that I've learned and try to implement as best as I can. As our brains work, we're very much categorical in our brains, meaning as we switch spaces, our brains will switch too. So as we walk into a different room, our brains will switch. So it's best to, when you're done for your day, just kind of like leave the house for a minute and then come back inside, and it kind of switches your brain. Once everything's turned off, go for a quick walk, take the dog out, just stand outside, take some deep breaths, and then come inside, and it kind of teaches your brain that, oh, this is my switch. Now I'm coming home to home and not just walking from my office to my kitchen.
Oh, that's really good.
I do that. I guess I do that naturally by going to the grocery store. I'm like, work's done. It's time to see other human beings. I'll go to the grocery store. I'm like,
Oh, Ben, don't tell me
human
that.
beings for the day. Time to go back home.
I thought you were gonna tell me you went to your wood chopper, got out there and started chopping wood, beer in the hand, chopping the wood with the wood chopper.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, no, I think it's for me, I part of my Miracle Morning, that book Hal Elrod wrote, Miracle Morning, which is highly favored by me. I really love it. And in it, he teaches you to create your own affirmations and your visualization. And the visualization is the component of seeing your day before it happens, seeing where you want to be in the future and some of those pieces. And part of my visualization that I talk myself through every morning as I take my walks is tying off the day at a decent hour, work out or take a walk, and then spend time engaging in evening activity with Megan and the family. Connect with Megan before we sleep. Like that's part of my visualization that I walk through every time. And I think having those real purposeful things in your heart of, I need to clock out by X, whenever that is. For me, I have a start and a stop. Like as far as I start wanting to hit that around 6:15, but like 7 p is like my hard stop. Like I can't work any later than 7 p. I'm not going to work any later than 7 p, because if I don't, then I'm not going to get good time to take a walk or work out or get good dinner time with Megan or get some, recreation time of watching things or reading, or hanging out. Like that stuff's not going to happen if I don't have a good stopping point. And then from there, like just like Terrence said, that transition of I need to walk. And if either I need to work out or I need to walk, but I need something after I'm done working. Otherwise, I do need that break. So I like you, Ben, I hadn't put those things together. So Taryn, thanks for verbalizing that, because that is part of my jam. But I think that's a really good thing to implement for sure.
Mhm. Yeah.
So we have no Ops Experts Club next week, right, T? Because it's Thanksgiving.
Correct.
Turkey
Correct.
Day.
Turkey Day. What are you boys doing for Thanksgiving?
Unless you want to just FaceTime us eating turkeys together.
Yeah, dude, I could just kick on the camera and we could just do an Ops Experts Club at the turkey table. No. What are you guys doing? You guys doing anything fun for Thanksgiving?
Driving to Eugene, Oregon.
Whoa.
Yeah, you're gonna be in my neighborhood.
Yes.
2.5 hours. You're pretty far north.
Yeah, we've got wife's family is down there, so everybody's collecting down in Eugene.
It's awesome. I love it. What about you, T? What are you doing?
Just hanging out here with the in-laws, family, and enjoy some fun there.
I
Food.
love it. Thanksgiving is my favorite holiday because there's no gifts. So I don't have the stress of, is my gift going to suck? Are they going to like it? Right. So I can just enjoy just being around people. So we have 28 people that come to our house on Thanksgiving, and we're actually doing it out on the out on the driveway this year. We're putting up a tent with some heaters, and we're just hoping it's going to go good. Like the weather's hopefully supposed to hold and not rain. There's all the variables of outside. So I am
You're
excited
literally
about
putting up a
Thanksgiving.
circus tent in your front yard.
We're doing it, Ben. So
That's awesome.
anyway,
I want
So
to
no
picture
ops
your
ex-
tent dinner.
no apps experts next week if you're tuning in right now. So you're not going to see us next Thursday. I hope you enjoy time with your family. I hope you enjoy time with Thanksgiving. If you need someplace to go, just come to my house, apparently, because that's where everybody's going to live under the tent. And then the following week, we're going to have another amazing EA, and I'm going to keep some suspense in it. But we're going to talk to powerful executive assistant for somebody that's doing some really big things, a client of ours for Collab Team. So tune in 2 Thursdays from now for Ops Experts Club, and we'll see you then. Thanks,
Bye,
guys.
everybody.